The aim of this video is to prepare vehicle drawings for Flexisign. The main points are to identify the right vehicle, download the vehicle drawing, import the drawing into Flexisign, prepare the Flexisign file, and to save it to the customer disk. This screen shows how a file should look once we've completed this process. The main things to note are that we include the production header, that the background of the vehicle is separate from the outlines, and that each side is grouped individually and not as a whole vehicle. The production header should be on every Flexisign file that we create. This means that if we need to produce prints or cuts in future, we know what we've done previously. Also, anyone setting up artwork can leave specific notes for production that production might not necessarily know about. For example, we may need to use a matte laminate instead of gloss on this particular job. Any information we can put there that means we end up with the right product should be done at this point. This can be changed as the file and the job progresses. In the first stages of setting up artwork, we might not know specific colours, we might not have decided whether we're using matte or gloss, for example. So we put as much information in here as we can, but that doesn't mean it can't change, and indeed it should change as we go along. The reasons we set up the actual outlines as we do, so with the background being separate, there's a couple of reasons for that. The first one is it allows us to change the colour of the vehicle easily. In this bottom section, I've actually got all that grouped together, and if you change the colour of that, as you can see, it just all goes pink, whereas that top one is the right one. The second reason for grouping them that way is that if we need to produce artwork that goes over some of the lines on the vehicle, things like the sliding door rails, if we just plonk the artwork over the top on the drawing, it just looks a bit odd. If we bring the outlines to the front using the arrange order to front option there, that just looks a bit more realistic, a bit more how it will look when it's finished. And obviously on the one that's grouped all together, there's no way of doing that. If you bring that to the front now, the whole vehicle comes to the front. So they're the reasons for setting the artwork up like we do. Vehicleoutlines.co.uk is where we download all our files. You should have been provided with login details. If not, ask and we'll get them for you. So you simply click on the little account icon up there and log in with the details you've been given. We click login, and then we can go find the outline that we require. You click on the single outlines option there, and then we can go and find our vehicle in the vehicle library. It's important that we know which vehicle we require. There's lots of variations on some of the vans, Ford Transits and Mercedes Sprinters and Vitos. There's hundreds of options. The main things to look out for are the height and length of the vehicle, and whether it has sliding doors on one side, both sides, or not at all, and then whether the back door is a tailgate type door that lifts up, or whether it's barn doors or double rear doors that open from the middle out, and also whether it has a window in the back. Lots of things. We need to make sure we get the right vehicle, mainly the height and length, but we need to try and get all the details correct. Once we've gone into the vehicle library, into light commercial, we can choose our manufacturer, and then again just keep following the menus until you get to where you want. This breaks it right down into the year. And then once you get as far as you can with that, it's a case of looking for the right vehicle. And as you can see, there's 3 pages just of Mercedes Vitos. And the options on the Vito, the size, there's compact, there's long, and there's also an extra long that's not on this page. We get near side loading door, so it just has a side loading door on one side, or you can have double side loading doors, so it's on both sides. And we can have, you can see on that we've got the double rear doors, barn doors or whatever. On that one we've got a tailgate, it says tailgate there. And then we have some with the windows in, it does specify windows there. So we just need to narrow it down as much as we can. Usually the first drawing, the group firstly in sizes, so we've got all the compact ones first. And it's usually the most simple one first, so it's the compact with only one door, doesn't have the rear window, and it's just the barn doors, which is the standard option for the Mercedes Vito. And then they kind of work up in complexity, so this one is the same as that one, but with the rear window. Then we move on to the one with the 2 side loading doors, but a solid back window, solid back panel. That one's the double side loading doors with the back windows. And then we move on to the tailgate versions. So they are grouped together in a way, getting more higher spec as we go, I guess. So once we've decided which vehicle we need, we can click on that, and we'll assume we're just going for the compact one with the single side loading door, no window in the back, and the double back doors. We can click on the download links tab, and then we usually have 3 or 4 options. The easiest one to download and use is the full scale version. Once we import that into Flexisign, we don't need to resize it. What I'm going to do, I'm going to download the 1 in 20 just to show you what we need to do with it if we download a 1 in 20. So if we just click on that, it'll start downloading. The way I do this is to, as soon as it downloads like that, click the folder icon so that we've got the file ready to bring into Flexisign. Now the file's downloaded, we need to bring it into Flexisign. Simply open a new file. The first thing to do, we're going to need to make the artboard a little bit bigger, so I usually start off by making 15,000 by 15,000, and then once we've got the vehicle in, we can bring that back down. If we now open our downloads window, we've got the file there. We can just drag and drop, and we've got our vehicle. Now this is where, with the variation between the 1 in 20 and the full size vehicles, if we downloaded a full size version, that we won't need to do anything as far as scaling goes. Because this is a 1 in 20, we need to scale it up by 2000%. The way to do that is simply to select the whole thing, go to Arrange and Resize, or you can use Control and K, and then in Design Central we've got the size. We don't want to actually size it, we just need to do it by percentage, and it's 2000%, obviously both ways. Tick that, and now that vehicle is actual size. The first thing to do is to ungroup the whole thing so that we can work with each side individually. We can delete the vehicle outlines website, we don't need that. 9 times out of 10 we don't need the top. The only time I would use the top is if we were wrapping the top for any reason, or sometimes if you've got a vehicle that's got a really flat bonnet, it's hard to show any vinyls that go on the bonnet, so I would leave that there for that, but the majority of the time we can get rid of the top as well. So this is the crucial part when it comes to grouping the outlines. Remember, what we want is each side grouped together but not including the background colour. So the way I would do this is to select the whole thing, and then while holding down the shift button, click on a white area of the vehicle, and that should deselect the background. We can then just go to arrange, group, and group, and that should stay like that. The way we can test it is just by selecting the background and just change the colour just to make sure. And then we do that for each side individually. What we don't want is to do that and unselect each side and group all the outlines together, because if we ever need to move one side on the drawing, you can't do it. You end up having to ungroup it, and it ungroups everything and it turns into a real mess. So we must do each side individually. Now sometimes this is what happens, and I think it depends which way you go with your mouse. What it does once you group it, it sends the outlines to the back. All we need to do if that happens is just go to arrange, order, and to front, and that'll bring the outlines back to the front. So select everything, shift and click the background to deselect it, arrange, group. If that happens, arrange, order, to front. Select everything, deselect the background, arrange, group, and this time it's fine. So that's the outlines fixed. I usually put these down in the bottom corner now, because when we resize the artboard, it draws it in from the top right. So I stick them down there. The next thing to do is to import the production note header. And we can do this by File and Import. And then on our shared customer folder, in the reactive signs folder, we have a file called job header. We can just pop that in there. I usually just scale it up to be the full width of the drawing. And then we can resize our artboard to suit. And the way I do that is to select everything, make a note of the size. So with 7,400 by 6,400, so I'm going to make our artboard 8,000 by 7,000. So we just need to click off that to deselect everything. So now this is the artboard. So 8,000 by 7,000 should be nice and neat. And the last part is to save it in the right place, which will be for the customer you're working with. So we File, Save As, and then in our shared customer folder drive, we'll assume this will for alternative windows, and we'll look for any specific folders for vehicles. in this case, there isn't any specific vehicle folder as such, but there is folders specific to each vehicle. So what we'll do, we'll create a new folder, call it Veto. We'll go in there and we'll save this as Veto for now. We can update the file name if we need to be more specific. We could actually put Veto L1. We know that's the shortest version. And then we can save that. So that file is now ready for preparing artwork.